District of St. Louis County's Board of Education, June 2025 business meeting is now called to order. Excuse me, will all who are able please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I now ask for a roll call vote to establish a quorum.
Director Suda,
Yes, present.
Director Nelson,
Present.
Director Beaver,
Here.
Director Asner,
Present.
Director Sartorius,
Here.
Vice President Cuneo,
Here.
President Staton.
Here. Quorum being present, welcome all to the business meeting. We have public comment. Up to 30 minutes. Each meeting is set aside to hear public comments. Each comment is limited to 3 minutes to address any item that is a legitimate part of the agenda of the board. Time limits are strictly observed and speakers are invited to the podium. We have anyone signed up? That's good. We have Tim Evie,
It's great to see.
Special Education Foundation. Thank you, Tim.
Hi. President Staton, Vice President Cuneo, Dr. Macklin, members of the board, and those of you, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk with you. And I just wanted to first compliment the board and its decision to bring Diligent in to use as a tool. I used that when I was on the National Public Radio Board, and it's a great tool. And for the public, it's also a great document, a great place to provide the transparency that's needed. I'm here just to address your board calendar and for next year, and hopefully you will add this to your calendar. But I want to thank Dr. Macklin for attending SEF's second annual Starfish Awards that took place 2 weeks ago at the Reverie in Chesterfield. As you may recall, this event recognizes individuals in the SSD community who others have nominated for the extraordinary difference that they are making in the lives of SSD students. We recognized teachers, paraprofessionals, a bus driver, a principal, and 2 individuals who are retired from SSD, but have continued to support students after leaving the district. It was a wonderful evening. And again, I hope you'll be able to join us next June when we celebrate more Starfish Award winners. And I would just like to share with you 2 comments from 2 of our winners that offered, I think, these inspirational thoughts that at least I think reflect so well on the mission of what SSD is all about. Shana Joshua was one of our winners. She's a paraprofessional at the Michelle Obama Early Childhood Center in Riverview Gardens. And she shared this with the attendees. To the rest of the winners and myself included, remember, when your students leave the classroom, they'll take a piece of you with them. Being a teacher is about so much more than facts, routines, and test scores. It's about unlocking hearts and practicing compassion, modeling kindness, determination, and grace. It's about being human together. And one of our other winners, Jamie Heidman, who's a speech language pathologist from Westridge Elementary in the Rockwood School District. She shared with us, "My mission is simple but mighty, to ensure that every student I work with discovers their voice, that they learn their communication preferences, that they know they have a right to be understood, not just by their words, but by their intentions, their energy, their presence. Because far too often people speak for our students. I want to help them speak for themselves." These are great examples of what SSD is all about. And I just want to compliment you and your leadership and thank you.
Thank you. I will now ask if there is a motion to approve the consensual items.
So moved.
Second. A motion and a second have been made. Is there any discussion? If there is no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion to approve the consensual item carries. Superintendent's report.
Thank you. Tonight, Dr. Bolton will lead us through three important presentations, Dr. Bolton and her team. The first presentation we'll hear will be the professional development plan and the budget presentation.
Good evening, President Staton, Board of Directors, and Dr. Macklin. My name is Molly Bolton, and I am the Chief of Teaching, Learning, and Accountability. As Dr. Macklin stated, I do have three presentations for you this evening. At the end of each presentation, I have allowed time for questions. Please, if you could hold those until that time, that would be great. Our first presentation is our professional development plan update, as well as the 25-26 professional development committee budget approval. So with me tonight for this presentation, I do have Tina Makshay, who's our Director of Professional Learning, as well as Dr. Wendy Owens, who is our Assistant Director of Professional Learning. Look over here. There we go. Whoops, too far. So the purpose of this presentation really is to talk with you guys about what the Professional Development Committee is all about. The Professional Development Plan that was implemented this past year, as well as the budget for the 25-26 year. Just a reminder, as DESE states, the responsibilities of the Board of Education are to approve the district's professional development plan, ensure that the implementation of that plan meets students as well as our staff's needs, and ensure that our new teachers receive that high quality beginning teacher assistance program, they call it the BTAP program, and mentoring that align to the state standards and guidelines. So with that, I am going to turn this over to Tina.
Good evening. So the primary function of the Professional Development Committee at a balcony perspective is to carry out a theory of action in concert with and in collaboration and partnership with district leadership. And that theory of action starts with leveraging standards-based learning that then improves educator practices and ultimately student success. And so with that, the Professional Development Committee is made up of membership that is voted on from each of the partner districts, as well as our SSD schools. And likewise, it is made up of membership from various other teacher level staff departments, such as whether it be early childhood, career and technical education, vocational skills program, et cetera. So we have a large representation there. I believe I skipped. It's going faster than I'm anticipating. Whoop. Backwards, got it. Learn to use the remote. Step one. Got it. So here's where we were. I did want to point out that as we look at these activities as required by regulation, Professional Development Committee funds can only be used to support certified teachers. That regulation changed back in 2019, but prior to that, we would have used some funds to support other teacher level disciplines like speech language pathologist, social work. So just to frame your thinking around what's presented this evening, that is geared towards certified teachers in those teaching positions. So these funds, so we are required, the district is required to allocate 1% of revenue from the foundation programs. It is to be directed towards professional development activities. A second component is that we're required to spend 75% of those funds within the same fiscal year. We generally do not have any problem spending those funds. And so that's what we'll review tonight, is how we have spent those funds this year, its impact, as well as that other intention of to present a projected budget and proposal for those funds allocations for the 25-26 school year. So again, as we do a review of these activities, the intention always is the committee strives to align those funded activities to SSD's Comprehensive School Improvement Plan. The committee then is aimed at studying the impact of those funded activities. And along with that, then they have had input into how funds could be used for the next school year, as we'll review this evening. So that's how they kind of work in concert. They also take into account when they are looking at how funds could be used, the information from either the building level principal in our SSD schools or the partner district special education directors kind of building improvement plans or their professional learning plans for the school year. Another caveat that I wanted to point out as we move forward is the 1% funds represent a small portion of our professional learning budget. And so what you'll see here is a snapshot of those that are funded activities through the 1%. So by no means is this inclusive of all of the professional learning events and programs that we provide in the district. So from here, we'll kind of go into each of our 3 goals that we set forth for this current school year. We'll highlight the activities that were funded as well as the costs and then impact or some implementation results. So this first chart is aimed at increased student learning through implementation of literacy, numeracy, and social emotional learning events. And the chart outlines just a few of those learning events related to each of those areas, which are inclusive of foundational learnings for both literacy and numeracy, and then some specific interventions such as Wilson Reading, Language Live, and the Strategic Instruction Model or SIM strategies. Again, there are actual costs that are associated with each of those outlined. And then what you see in the results column are really implementation measures such as the number of attendees as well as their initial impressions of those trainings. Okay. Then from there, this next slide again is aimed at that goal 1, which again is aimed at the literacy, numeracy, and social emotional learning activities. And this highlights activities such as our crisis prevention and intervention, and the materials that are needed to fund that activity, as well as some of the instructor costs. It is also inclusive of the chart of those professional development committee requests that have come in this school year. And there were events there. And those really primarily support individual teacher professional growth plans in alignment with the special education administrators' learning plans. Lastly, what is included on this slide is the social emotional learning. And so there was a foundational training called Ruler that we funded, and then as well as activities for our new teacher academy that support social emotional learning, as well as Calm Classroom. And again, associated costs as well as some initial implementation results. The next 2 slides are charts that really speak to, so what did those funded events or activities yield in teacher effectiveness or increase in teacher practices, as well as student performance. And so for 3 of the targeted reading interventions, you can see the blue bar charts teacher implementation with fidelity and the percentage of teachers reaching teacher implementation fidelity. And the red bar indicates the student implementation or gain of skills by being on track as outlined by the program measures. Backwards. The second chart is the social emotional learning results. And again, Ruler as our foundational social emotional learning strategy, Calm Classroom, and the SEB Academy. Again, the blue chart is teacher implementation with fidelity of those practices, and the red being the student achievement or student gains as a result of these strategies. All right, goal 2, Dr. Owens.
Good evening. Continuing on with Goal 2, which as outlined, we provided a new teacher induction program for our new teachers to the district. And some of those allowable activities and strategies, we started with a 3-day event, new educator orientation program, where we focused on universal Tier 1 supports, classroom learning systems, and explicit instruction in nonviolence crisis intervention. Also, incidentals that were included there were lunches for 3 days, as well as rental equipment. And you can see the actual cost for that event. some results from that 3-day event. You'll notice perception feedback from new teachers. 99% of educators rated the overall quality of their learning as average, above average, or outstanding. We did complete an after action review, the NEO committee, where we highlighted some opportunities for improvement as we plan for new educator orientation this coming July. A second allowable activity was the integrated learning throughout the year. That was inclusive of cohorts for Academy 1, 2, and 3 teachers. We provided textbooks and materials to support that learning throughout the year. And then that third column is some of the results from that learning. You'll notice we had a total of 250 teachers that participated in Academy 1. We had 99 year 1 teachers, 63 year 2 teachers, and 88 year 3 teachers. A focus for that learning, again, was those 3 big buckets, universals, explicit instruction, high leverage practices 7 and 16, and classroom learning systems. A third allowable activity for Goal 2 was our mentoring program. So we provided mentors for all new teachers, and they provided intensive quality support to teachers throughout the year, a maximum of 14 hours, and they will receive an associated stipend of $550 per assignment. Here are some results related to the concepts and practices of Academy 1. Again, Academy 1 is supportive of year 1, 2, and 3 teachers. So for universal support, our year-ending report, as of February 2025, 69% of year 1 teachers were implementing universal tier 1 concepts and practices with at least 85% of those practices in place. That is a 5% growth from last fall. High leverage practices, 7. 92% of teachers were implementing with fidelity. And high leverage practice 16, 80.5% of teachers were implementing with fidelity. Classroom learning systems, 88% met differential growth using the systems check 2. And those data continue to be gathered as teachers participate in Academy year 2 and 3.
Our third goal of the Professional Development Committee is to ensure that we have a well-versed and functioning Professional Development Committee. And so what you see here are the various activities or requirements of each of the representatives and the officers of the committee. And then the costs are really the stipends associated with serving in that leadership capacity. So this year you can see that we had 3 officers, as well as we had 20 representatives serving on the committee. And then the stipends were set to be dispersed for the 3 officers. And then we had 15 representatives that submitted time cards for payment for filling those roles and responsibilities. At a more granular level, just so you can see how those activities carried out this year, we held 3 PDC meetings or 3 Professional Development Committee meetings in October, January, and April. The committee approved and funded 5 requests. 4 were for learning experiences. 1 was for materials. And also as a result of knowing where the impact of those monies with those activities, we do ask them to submit artifacts as well as complete an evaluation. And so you see the 100% of those funded requests, those recipients felt that there was an impact both on their practices as well as students. So in terms of next steps, taking all these results into considerations, we know we want to continue our alignment and funding activities as it helps support literacy, numeracy, and social emotional learning. We also are requesting to continue some of those foundational trainings in literacy, numeracy, and we could also include Ruler, the foundational training in SEL in that arena as well. As required, we will continue with our new teacher academy in those 3 theme areas. We'll continue to fund strategies to help individuals meet their individual growth goals. And this year, it's been instrumental in partnering with evaluation and research to support our data reporting and analysis through continuous improvement cycles. And then additionally, next year will be our triennial assessment, or the PDC needs assessment will go out to certified teachers. So again, we have their feedback and input to develop the next plan. At a balcony, and you received a more detailed artifact in your Friday packet on the proposed budget and plan for the 25-26 school year. So this is just a balcony perspective, breaking down those 3 goals. So we have budgeted for and are planning and asking approval to use a little more than $341,000 to support the literacy, numeracy, and social emotional learning practices. We are requesting a little more than $100,000 to support the new teacher academy and induction program, and then the stipends associated with the officers and representatives of the professional development committee, which would total $450,000. We are anticipating in our collaboration with accounting that our foundation formula for next year would be in the area of around $453,000. So just knowing that might fluctuate, we built the plan for $450,000. So that is kind of the encapsulation of how we funded through PDC, or those 1% funds. And so also we wanted to share a little bit about our entire division, professional learning division, through the program monitoring report. And I believe you received a more detailed analysis of that in your packet as well. So what follows are our key performance measures that we track for all professional learning. So this would include all of our interventions for literacy, numeracy, social emotional learning, as well as supporting interventions and programs for autism. And so just know these 5 metrics pertain to all of those arenas. And so we track first satisfaction with those learning events, knowing our theory of action is if we offer quality learning events, that will precipitate and lead to improved teacher effectiveness and student outcomes. And so you can see that we increased by 1 percentile point to a 98 percentile point in terms of staff feeling that the learning events are relevant and engaging. We exceeded our target as well on the anticipated impact those learning events would have. And so this year's results were 98% satisfaction and indication of anticipated impact. Our third key performance measure has to do with job embedded supports. So as a part of standards-based professional learning and high quality professional learning, we do require job embedded support to facilitate on the job implementation, in the classroom implementation. And so we began tracking that a number of years ago to say how close or how far are we in meeting that mark for providing that support. And so we know this year we did not reach the altitude we expected for teachers participating in that job embedded support. We dive deeper into an analysis as to what might be those causal factors around that. We had a few precipitating factors this year that were around teachers attending learning events to ensure there was some cross training, but at this point in time, they did not have the expectation to implement, but could in the future as staffing changed. Okay, so I would say that was the largest precipitating factor. Within it, sometimes it was a delay in teachers receiving materials, and so they did not get 2 coaching cycles in. So I would say those were the top 2 when we analyze those causal factors that could contribute to that decrease. Our 4th key performance measure has to do with fidelity of implementation. And so again, here you see that we didn't quite reach the altitude that we anticipated. Doing an analysis within that as well. We did teach some new programs this year, so we are heavily studying what went right, what didn't go as expected, and then we have improvement plans to address those areas moving forward. So those are our key performance measures as listed in the monitoring report. And so given that in total, what questions might we address?
Yes, thank you. I'm impressed with the high levels of satisfaction in implementation in so many of these factors. It's really nice to see. In terms of, I'm sorry, I've got a little bit of a allergy thing going on here. In terms of our trainers, how many of our trainers are internal, and then how much do we rely on external training?
Go ahead. Primarily, I'll answer that question. So primarily they're in-house. We do, given the scope of the roles, for each of those. So we do have external trainers to support the foundational trainings for literacy and for numeracy. And so everything else is provided in-house.
Very good, thank you.
My question was about the PDC Committee One. Excited to, because I feel like remembering this from last year, at least more district folks are participating in those meetings and showing up. But I feel like last year there were like 6 requests that were filled, and just thinking about like how more, I know there are a whole lot of opportunities for veteran teachers to participate in professional development, particularly with some of the challenges you mentioned. Just thinking about ways of continuing to encourage folks to build their skill set, look for opportunities to do that. You know, the more you work on your craft, the better you are. So would love to hear if you guys have any idea like what those PDC reps were saying about teachers making requests. Were there more requests made that just weren't, didn't meet the application requirements, things like that?
Yeah, we have been trying to be really intentional with the PDC reps, and they're partnering in collaboration with instructional coaches and EPSs to really communicate and get the word out about those trainings that might be beneficial for teachers in implementing those concepts and practices related to literacy, math, and SEL. So we have spent a portion of our PDC time when we meet with the committee, just kind of revisiting some of those trainings and PD that might be supportive of teachers in partner districts.
Were there more people that applied and just didn't?
There were, I don't know, do you have that?
Sure. There were more activities requested,
Oh.
but they were requested by other teacher level staff outside of certified teachers.
Got it.
So then we direct them in other ways. So I'd say we try and connect them to our use of professional development at Education Plus to utilize our learning service credits that way. And I would say we did have more requests even from certified teachers, but they were requesting to get those learning events through Education Plus.
That's helpful. I think the more people know, there's going to be some snafus, but at least people are like attempting to use these funds. Thank
And I
you.
think another thing to add is, we do have a very, very robust professional learning internally. I mean, we offer, I don't even know how many trainings, but a lot of trainings, just with our own staff, which is free.
Yeah.
There are a number of requests that do come in, the last thing I'll say, because we talked about this forever. The last thing I'd say, there are a number of requests that folks that get talked about at the committee level, but they aren't necessarily in alignment with those 3 goals. So I might have an interest in something, but making that connection's a little bit broader than what our parameters are.
That's helpful to know. Thank you.
2 quick questions. One on slide 9, Wilson. I was just curious, what measures does Wilson use to measure its effectiveness
The
for students?
instructor, do you want that one?
And I say that because I keep hearing Wilson in other things, and I'd like to understand that. So
Absolutely, absolutely. So we have a couple different measures. Wilson does have an internal assessment that they use inside the program to show growth. It's called the WADE. And then we also typically look at their Fast Bridge or their progress monitoring data to ensure the students are making progress at a rate that we feel is what we would consider adequate progress.
when this we have been sued on reading programs. The effectiveness of Wilson here, 96% I'm impressed.
Yes,
Uh,
very good.
can that be, is that brought up when we are sued and people are requesting other programs? Or is it, Wendy? I guess you wouldn't know that, maybe.
Yes,
Okay,
the lawyer,
good.
we work very closely with the lawyers.
Good. I was just wanting to make sure that Tomachek had that.
Yes.
Second thing this question was on the nonviolent crisis intervention program. is there a possibility that we as a board could be given some quick presentation on that? That's always ends up a hot topic when somebody gets hurt. And I'm hoping that nobody gets hurt, or that doesn't happen again, but I'm guessing every couple of years that becomes a real hot topic, and it becomes a real hot topic on seclusion restraints and everything else. And I was also wondering, could we get a quickie presentation on that sometime? And how it says it's effective. I'd like to know how it's measured and what are our measurements? Are we measuring by seclusion restraints or lack of seclusion restraints or doing it, or lack of physical? I'd love to see that program tied in to our workers' comp, since many of the times we have a workers' comp because a student,
Sure.
a staff gets hurt by a student during that time period. I'd love to know, is that program brought down our attack, not brought down our injuries, if not our attacks?
Sure, we can provide a presentation on that.
I think it'd be a real help.
Uh, When you were talking about the job embedded supports and how your results didn't meet your target because what you realized in the end is that some people were coming in and cross training. I'm a huge advocate of cross training. I think it prepares us for the future in lots of wonderful ways. Now that you realize that, does that affect how you're planning for next year and the year after? And if so, how? Or maybe it doesn't.
I think some of it is just on how we're recording and reporting the data and keeping those things clear. So some of it would have to do with, like, these folks have been in the in-seat training versus these have completed the series of training, which is inclusive of the job embedded supports. So that then we can design, so if you participated in training this year but didn't use it, you might need a booster session before your next implementation. So we just have to have some different approaches and be very clear in our course registration system about who has received what and to what extent.
Thanks.
Real quick, and you probably already answered this to some degree in other meetings, but how do we decide between Wilson and like brain balance or something like that? Why are we selecting Wilson compared to other programs out there that are available?
Yeah, so we vet different programs and we really look at the research and the evidence base behind it, especially their evidence base behind using it with students with disabilities. We used to be the wild, wild west, and we taught whatever fit our fancy, right? What we have really been very intentional about in the last 5 years is narrowing our scope, really looking at what our students' needs are and getting really good at those programs that we know produce results. So we've really narrowed our scope of programs that we train and support.
And just to add to that, I noticed when we really went into depth, some of the materials, we're not really where we want to be with Wilson, but we're seeing increases still that we're moving in the right direction. Is that right?
Yes.
Right.
I have a question. So what districts are these programs in, and would the program be accessible to a specific number of teachers in each partnering district?
So we have our integrated tiered models for each of our partner districts, which records what they're using for their core program, what they're using for tier 2, as well as tier 3. And that is available on our website. And so you can kind of see which districts are using which programs. They really, when they choose a program, they really look at what does the partner district already have in place and what program is going to supplement or enhance what their instruction and meet the needs of our students. So if you want some specific data from a district, I can definitely provide that. But if you look at those integrated tier models, it will tell you exactly what programs they are implementing.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Molly, I would just add to that, holistically, this is a representation of teachers countywide, though.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we can move to the C-STEP update from Dr. Bolton. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving on to our strategic plan and comprehensive improvement plan for our fourth quarter results. And again, the purpose of this is our fourth quarter results, and this completes the third year of our 5-year plan. Just a quick reminder of the difference between a strategic plan and a CSIP plan. This graphic really lines out with our strategic plan being more operational focused and our comprehensive school improvement plan or CSIP plan being more focused upon specific student outcomes. So with that,
Just want to point out that slide, although it compares the two, it never actually labels which is which.
yeah.
I think that part is cut off from the very top.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, if you look at our actual document, it is in there, yes. So as you're facing the graphic, the left-hand side would be our strategic plan and the right-hand side would be our comprehensive school improvement plan. Thank you for that. Clicker is slightly delayed, I apologize. Looking at our first strategy on our strategic plan. Mark, I'm gonna need your assistant in next slide. This one is the one where we're looking at effective database systems to support instruction and operations. This strategic plan strategy has worked towards creating the data system to share data. And one accomplishment of this system is that they have created an administrative data hub. And that is available on Gateway, our intranet. And with that, administrators have access to the most frequently utilized data sources all in one place. And so that has been a huge accomplishment of this. Also, we've completed a beta of our key performance indicators dashboard, and we'll be sharing that with you at our work study in August. So we're super excited about that. And we do have Hancock Place that we have confirmed will participate in our pilot of our data integration project for next year. Also, this team worked on a proposal for a data governance work group. Dr. Diggs next year will be leading our data governance initiatives. And we just took to DLT this past today, actually, kind of what our work group will look like and received approval to move forward with that. So we're very excited about that. We are still awaiting for the MoreNet and educational analytics finalizing their process and contracts so that we can begin building that data integration implementation piece. And we are initiating the process for our district leadership team to review that KPI data. And that should be happening in July before we bring it to you in August. Next slide, please. For goal 2, looking at supporting our students, 2.1 has been completed. That's been completed for a while. And 2.2 is actually using the information from 2.1. And they are, as you heard at our last work study, we have finalized the pilot for the caseload workload formula. And also, they have been doing some resource mapping with some of the Power BI dashboards for folks to use looking at the allocation of resources. They're going to continue the refinement of that caseload workload formula and then integrate those dashboards into broader systems, and we'll be using that for some of our reallocation process. Our third goal is really talking about the multi-channel communication. The first being with the business agencies, and they have completed their frequently asked questions documents for those who are seeking partnerships with SSD. And then also creating an MOU template and process to use, memorandum of understanding template and process to use for when we enter into partnerships, as well as creating an internal document that has great questions to ask those potential partners. to ensure we're a good match for each other. They will be finalizing the language and formatting on those documents and will do a rollout plan at the beginning of this year. And they are also discussing potential focus groups as a way to get feedback from our partners. We do a panorama survey, but our participation results have not been that high in a survey. So we're looking at potentially if we do focus groups, we can hopefully get more participation and more meaningful feedback. 3.2 is our family engagements. So we have added some crisis information supports on our family webpage. And this will help support those students who may receive a seclusion or restraint form. And this will help them kind of navigate and understand those forms when they receive them. Also, they have reviewed data from their support tools webpage. And what we are finding is when a family or a member, could be a teacher, when a person clicks on those, they're looking at least an average of 4 different resources within that tool. So that's some exciting data. They will continue working with evaluation and research. We're updating our IEP survey, the survey that families receive after they have an IEP, and they will be finalizing the sustainability plan for this strategy as their work is almost completed. 3.3 is our developing amongst departments an effective communications piece. And you may remember we discussed previously that they developed a guide for some leadership communication. And right now their sustainability plan is this work will be transitioned to the director of communications in relationships. And so they are finalizing their sustainability, their performance measures. And so when I report out to you at the beginning of the year for our first quarter, this strategy will also be finalized. Moving on to our CSET plan updates. Next slide, next 2 actually, one more. For proactively planning for students, our strategy 1.1 is our charting the life course IEP framework. We're completing the special education training process for administrators in their roles to support that rollout plan for that. And also introducing some support tools for them to utilize with their staff while that is being rolled out. And then creating some specific supports for designated roles, for example, speech language pathologist within that framework. We are also working on that grant for this fall on transitioning the self-determination with UMSL, the University of Missouri St. Louis. And they will also be finalizing a few training pieces, one that will support paras with this work, and then training teacher champions to help support the work as we're moving through the rollout. 1.2 is looking at connections between student data and research. So we're continuing to work on that case use. As I reported out last quarter, Melville has volunteered to be a part of that. And so that is still in the works. And then also working with Pattonville about creating a regional dashboard for state level data that will help with our Missouri school improvement plans. So we'll be continuing to refine and test those dashboards and then really working with Pattonville to get something a little more concrete that we can use regionally. 1.3 is that collaborative planning with partner districts. So we are establishing those connections with that two-way communication. And that should be, they were looking at the S'mores platform that we currently use for newsletters. And then also they have identified the revisions needed for the partnership agreement, making minor tweaks this year, next year, a more comprehensive overhaul. So there was restructuring of the team is still occurring. There are some staffing changes of team members that used to be on there. And so we'll be looking at filling those positions. Also been reviewing the survey data and then doing some focus groups with partner districts around both that partnership agreement as well as the principal coordinator collaboration tool. And that's what they'll really be focused on for next year. Next slide. For CSIP goal two, we'll be looking at developing the understanding and purpose around programming. So again, they have that operational list of programming and service delivery models and reviewing that data. They are breaking up into some subgroups for review of that data and then looking at what that looks like across the county. 2.2 is the evidence-based practices. We have completed the core resource guide, and we're so excited that tomorrow we'll be able to share that with our Principals Institute. So our partners can see that. It has also been posted on our website, and we'll be sending out the information to curriculum folks. And then our evidence-based practice tool is also finalized, and we'll be rolling that out in our back to school PowerPoint, and it will be available on Gateway for folks to access that. We are finalizing some of the performance measures for those two pieces, and then looking at our theory of change as to what our focus will be for next year. Our last one is goal 3, which talks about students who are highly mobile. This also is coming to a close. So collaborating with partner districts around justice-involved youth. And then also identifying that sustainability plan for their work. So they'll be finalizing the teacher handbook guidance and then those quick start cards for transfer processes. Next slide. What questions, Mike? Yes.
Just going back to slide 10, you said you're one of the next steps on 2.1 for the strategic, for the CSIP
plan
is to review the data, look at equitability of services across the district. Just want to request that also you have that completed, that needs to be shared in detail. Sitting here, what you might have. Thank you. Presentation.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I also just want to say I'm excited about 1.3 and the focus groups. I know we continue to dive into deeper levels of how we can better partner with our districts. And so excited to hear the outcomes from those conversations.
Slide 6. This is the workload caseload pilot we talked about. Fantastic program. You presented it. Great idea. We followed through on it. The only thing what I'd like to do on this, we've talked about this. Can we make sure, we talked about exporting this possibly, telling other people how we did this and how it worked. Can we, when we talk about exporting it, whether it be at MSBA or to any other presentation, can we make sure these presentations that we mentioned are stressed that this came out of our strategic plan? I love the flow. Strategic plan, we said we were going to do it. We did it. This is our end result. I think that makes everything even more powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for the presentation. Again, I'm sorry, my allergies are just making, hopefully you can hear me okay. I heard you mention dashboards a couple of times. I'm excited about that. I like seeing where we're making progress, but I also would love to see some metrics to go with what we're doing. So that caught my interest. Page 7, we talked about engaging with families. We talked about how many families are getting information off of web pages. Pardon me, which made me wonder whether we have an app. Is there an SSD app?
Through our website, more so. Do you want to come talk to that?
Don't
Don't know. Haven't seen it.
Great idea.
The district does not have a mobile app. Our website is a mobile enabled platform, so it is user friendly to access on a device. What we have found through talking to different entities about apps is that they're on the decline for school districts. And for us specifically, we would have a really hard time getting people to download the app because of our dual partner system. If districts are using an app, they're more likely to, the families are more likely to download their partner district app versus our app. So it wasn't cost effective for us to implement an app at this time.
I do wonder if that's a way to reach more families. I know as we talk about family engagement and just the world in general, more people are engaging digitally rather than in person.
And what we found through our professional organization is that a lot of families are not engaging with school district apps anymore.
Okay, good to know. Thank you for the answer.
Thanks, Jen.
And then,
Still like apps.
sorry?
I still like apps.
Yeah, I like apps too. I would use it. And then several times you've mentioned charting the life course. Is there a way that the board could get just sort of a sample of what that looks like? It sounds like it's guiding a lot of our work. I'd be interested in learning more if the rest of the board is interested as well.
Molly, can I tag on her question, please? There was a presentation that was given to the autism committee on this that I thought was excellent. I mean, not only can we have that presentation, but would there be a way that that presentation that was given to by the autism committee, could that be put in one of our packets or, put a link to it on somewhere? Because that was absolutely superb. And I thought that evening it was done very well.
Absolutely. We can add that to your Friday packet.
Yeah, thanks. I'd like to understand more. Thank you.
Dan, to add on to your comment, I know the resources that you all provide are really great, and the whole idea of what that program does and then connecting with a life coach, either through Easter Seals or what have you after kids graduate, to continue, I think is really important too. So the more we can stress that yes, that, just because your child leaves special school district, in their home district, there are still supports out there that I know you all probably cover. I think that's really important too.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes.
I just want to make a comment. I'm excited about goal strategy 1.3 for the connections with the partnering districts, and also to see the information be mirrored so that parents could see. Because if they don't go to the SSD website and they do go to the partnering district website, it would be helpful for the partnering districts to mirror what SSD is putting out.
Absolutely. Any other questions or comments?
Good job.
Okay.
All right. If there are no further questions, we'll now move to curriculum and assessment from Dr. Bolton.
Do you have water up there?
Didn't bring it up, but I do have it. It'll be fine. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll be fine. Thanks. Because this is going to be a quick one, I hope. So just to preface this presentation just a little bit, I did share a lot of documents, as well as in May, you had a memo that talked about and shared with you how to access the curriculum that you will be approving this evening. So so I'm not going to go into a lot of depth with those documents, but if you do have questions, please, at the end of the presentation, make sure you ask those questions. So the purpose of this presentation is to, is to present our curriculum reviews from this past year. Or can you please put that back one? Yeah. Also present our course guides for approval for this year, our assessment plan, as well as our literacy and dyslexia plan. And that is required by DESE that the board approve those plans. So just a few quick reminders, as I always do every presentation about curriculum. Just a reminder, the curriculum is the what, not the how. It's what we want students to know and be able to do. The instruction is how do you teach those things? And that gets very differentiated and specific to meet our students' needs. And then we know that both are important when we look at student learning. And what you see here in this pyramid is the way our curriculum is set up. So our large level is the course. That course is broken down into units. Those units are broken down into smaller topics, and then we get to the actual learning target. So those specific things that we want our students to know and be able to do. On the next slide. Oops. Mark, I think I'm just going to have you advance and I'm going to stop, if you'll please. Okay, so we see that curriculum and instruction and assessment all go together to take care of our student learning and to get to the heart of that. Next slide. So our first goal in the curriculum and teaching and learning with the curriculum is that we regularly review and update not only our SSD schools curriculum, but also our career and technical education curriculums. So we do have review cycles for each of these, and our action steps is that we do implement that calendar of reviews with our SSD schools being on a 4-year curriculum review cycle and our career and technical education schools being on a 5-year curriculum cycle. So what that means is we will at least review them every 4 years for SSD schools, every 5 years for career and technical. But that with the caveat of if there is an update in standards from DESE or an update in industry standards or something we need to add for industry, that may be reviewed sooner than that cycle. Next slide, please. This graphic kind of shows you the process that we use for reviewing. So we do have a committee, we do look at data. We make sure that our curriculum is aligned to both state and industry standards, and then making sure that it's optimally effective. And then that revise and review as needed to make it so. Next slide, please. So this year in our special education schools, you can see we had four major curriculums that we did review. So our science, all science courses were reviewed. Library and media was reviewed. Our social emotional courses were reviewed, as well as our character education. Next slide, please. This slide shows what was reviewed for our career and technical schools. So you can see them listed there. Just so you know, the career exploration courses, that is our 10th grade courses where students rotate through certain courses for exploratory. So those are all listed there as well. And the 10th grade program, you'll notice, is just at Northtown. Next slide, please. Instructional materials and textbooks, we make sure we update those on a regular schedule as well. And so when we do a curriculum review, we may also look at what materials we may need to support those changes. We also implement the centralized purchasing system for materials for across the whole county. Next slide. This shows us our resource review for this year. So we are continuing with our Inspire Science for grades 6 through 8 and Big Ideas Math as our curriculum resource for K through 12 math. In career and technical, we added a couple of pieces in our vet tech program as well as in our robotics program. And these resources fill some gaps that we felt our previous resources had. Next slide, please. You also were given the updated course guides. Major changes to highlight. We did change our communication arts to English language arts, and that was to be in alignment with DESE. We did change our health to health and family education, and that was also based on DESE's guidance. And then we did add an essential career skills course from our e-courses that we offer. And then our CTE were just minor updates on that guide. Next slide, please. Also, you were presented with our assessment plan. There were not any major changes in our assessment plan from last year to this year. And so that has been updated to be the 25-26 school year. Next slide, please. The last piece is our literacy and dyslexia plans, which you were also provided copies of, and those were updated. Basically, the changes within those were based on changes made through DESE, and so we just updated our plan to reflect those requirements from DESE. Next slide, please. Looking at our goals for the 25-26 school year, we have completed our proficiency scales for ELA and math. And so next year we will be moving on to science and social studies. We have revised our essential elements checklist, which that is a checklist used for our students who are assessed on the alternative standards. And we are going to do a pilot with that revised checklist and gather feedback for next year. And then we will have our course reviews for next year. Next slide, please. And this is a list of the course reviews in the special education schools. So we'd be looking at mathematics, personal finance, and then our practical arts courses. Next slide. And these are our CTE course reviews for next year. As you see, there are no new courses being added. These are review of existing courses. And that takes us to open it up for any questions that you might have.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Oh, no, it's okay. I thought somebody else was ready. Okay, thank you. Now I forgot what I was going to say. Go ahead, whoever else is ready. Sorry.
So, you said revise the essential element. Is that like an essential, classroom curriculum?
And that would be the essential elements checklist is the assessment we use to monitor progress on our students who take the MAPA.
Okay, so do you have a program for essential skills classrooms?
So typically those are the ones who are assessed on essential elements.
Oh.
Yes. So that would be that population would be the same. Yeah.
Another question, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So will you provide, specific curriculum for higher level students that are in those essential skills?
For as far as so the way the curriculum is written, it is scaffolded to meet a wide range of students' needs. But we do look for specific resources to support students at different levels.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And I remembered, yes, I did remember. So you said that we're in a 4-year cycle and a 5-year cycle with our curriculum review. Does that mean that we do each thing every 4th year? So we might do math every 4 years and ELA every 4 years, but we're not doing everything in year 4 and everything in year.
It's a cycle. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
it is a cycle. So we have certain, so, we kind of have mapped out a calendar
Mhm.
of what courses we do in a cycle of 4 years.
That's what I expected you to say. I just
Yeah.
haven't seen it. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And then will you talk about, and I'm sorry if I missed it in the resources, what we're doing for character education?
So we use a lot from the Character Plus organization. And so we have based, they do have a set of standards. And so we have based our curriculum writing on that set of standards and then have scaffolded those standards to meet the needs of our students.
Good, good. I'm really happy that we're engaging with Character Plus. I'm on that board. But it was at my urging that we aligned a lot of our work with the state standards. And so
Yeah.
it is a really good resource. So I'm happy to hear that.
Yes.
I have one more question.
Mhm.
About the assessment plan. I think we talked at a meeting in the past, I'm not sure how long ago, about whether or not we are looking at how many assessments we're doing and whether or not some of those are serving overlapping purposes.
Mhm.
What's the process for looking at which assessments we need and which are providing value for us?
So a couple of ways we have done that. So we do have, we have different folks looking at from the specific areas, looking at the assessments we are using. We have changed up some of the assessments. One thing we are piloting this year with our partner districts is we have used FastBridge in the past for all of our partner districts. This year, we allowed districts to opt in to an option of if they would share their benchmarking and growth data with us, they would no longer have to do both assessments. And we have several of our districts who have taken us up on that. Some of our districts maybe don't have as strong of a commitment to one assessment for benchmarking, so they have chosen to stay with FastBridge. But many of our partner districts we're going to try this where we share the assessment data and see how that goes.
Good, good. I know that can be such a challenge.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have one more question. I'm sorry.
Sure.
What districts, have essential classrooms? And then also, how do you choose the districts to pilot the new curriculum?
So districts that have essential classrooms, I will have to get you that data. I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can get you that information. One of the challenges we do have is they do call them different things sometimes, and so it'll take me just a little bit to get you that data, but I can do that. So each one of those classrooms should be using our essential skills checklist if their students are assessed on MAP-A and should be sharing those results with families. For the pilot, it is a volunteer process of whether they will use the current or if they will try out the new form and give us feedback on that. We anticipate that will roll out for everyone in the 26-27 school year. We just wanted some folks to try it and give us feedback to make sure we're hitting the mark with it.
Thank you.
Just a follow-up question with that. Are we still being limited by the number of students by the state that could be in that category?
It's a percent, yeah,
Right,
it's
a
the 1%. yeah.
Okay, and
1%.
then, and you may not have any idea, where are we at trying to get a variance or whatever?
A waiver, the waiver.
A waiver, that's what.
Yeah, you'll actually
waiver
get a
for-
presentation on that in August
Okay,
with an
great,
update.
Great,
Mhm.
so and that waiver would hopefully put us on an even footing with other districts in the area, as opposed to our kids having the needs they do, being compared to kids in the general population.
Any other questions are coming?
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now the board will take up all action items, starting with 5.01. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the LPN instructor salary schedule for fiscal year 26?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. 5.02. Okay, is there a motion to approve the EMT part-time instructor proposal?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. 5.03.
So
Thank you.
Second.
Part of it is I'm making sure Tom is ready to go.
it's a little bit.
Yeah, giving them a little time to do the right clicks. Is there any discussion?
I don't think we named what we were moving.
Oh,
on.
thank you. Is there a motion to approve the curriculum and assessment plan?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries.
He's got to change who made the motion.
Doing both hands on that.
5.04,
I'm
strategic.
impressed.
Is there a motion to approve the strategic plan and comprehensive school improvement plan?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 5.05, is there a motion to approve the professional development plan and budget?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 5.06, is there a motion to approve the substitute contracts?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 5.07. GLP-1 medications for weight loss. Is there a motion to approve to discontinue the coverage of GLP-1s for weight loss as of January 1st, 2026?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Before voting, I want to share with our SSD community a brief timeline and board actions as it relates to this issue. As you can see, the board approved covering GLP-1 medications beginning April 1st, 2023 on the recommendation of the insurance broker, who at that time estimated the cost to be $110,000. In actuality, the cost for the first 12 months was $1.9 million. In October of last year, our broker recommended discontinuing coverage for the indication of weight loss And at the time, our board elected to table the decision so we could hear from the community, research alternatives to discontinuing coverage, listen to experts in the field, and look at school district, employer, and health system trends as it relates to whether or not other plans cover GLP-1s for weight loss. We heard many impassioned voices during our November meeting from users of the medications who, for them, the benefit is undeniable. The board recognizes these health benefits and does not minimize the impact they have on their physical well-being. After collecting information, the board vigorously debated the pros and cons of discontinuing coverage and is now ready for each board member's voice to be heard through their vote. Is there any other discussion from the board?
I'd like to read something.
Mhm.
May I?
Yes, ma'am.
Making the decision about GLP-1s has been a challenging one, and one that administrators and the board have taken very seriously. I've stated that I want to find a place where health, science, and the budget intersect. Unfortunately, the cost of GLP-1s could have a potential $12 million impact on our budget and would take almost all anticipated new money for next year, leaving the money unavailable for salaries, operating expenses, and more. I know these medications have been very helpful to many people, and while SSD cannot afford to cover the cost in this way, they will still be available to employees at their physician's discretion. We encourage employees to leverage their health savings accounts and FSA accounts if they need this medication, and please feel free to reach out to pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies to encourage them to make these medications more affordable.
May I have a clarification, please?
Mhm.
It is my understanding that we are voting on what we are doing now. But in the future, we may decide based upon whether the costs go down. I believe that's what we spent an entire Saturday dealing with this if my understanding is that if the costs would go down, if an appropriate generic could be found, if in fact the insurance changes, the cost changes, we may very well vote to approve these medications at a later date. But the vote I understand that we are taking now is what we're doing at this moment. It's not that it is a complete final vote forever, but a vote for right now.
No, this conversation can always come back
Okay.
up. Go ahead, Dr. Macklin. Go ahead.
No, I just want to make sure that that we had spent much time on this and that this decision is based on the information that we have now. If we get additional information or prices change, the board's decision may very well change.
Any other discussion?
I think it's also worth clarifying for those watching that that what we're voting on here is to discontinue use for weight loss. There are other indications for which people, our workers, may be being prescribed this medication, and those are not affected. This is about the use for weight loss.
Any other comment? Now I'll call for a roll call.
Director Suda,
Yes.
Director Nelson,
Yes.
Director Beaver,
Yes.
Director Asner,
No.
Director Sartorius,
Yes.
Vice President Cuneo,
Yes.
President Staten.
No.
So it's a 5-2. Okay. 5-2. Okay.
5-2, motion carries.
Did not want to. So no.
5.08. Is there a motion to approve the 10-year facilities plan?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 5.09. Is there a motion to approve the June budget adjustment?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right. Board of Education Business. 6.01, I now ask for a motion to hold a closed meeting of the Board of Education Tuesday, June 25th. Is there a I'm sorry, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion to approve holding a closed meeting of the Board of Education carries.
Sorry for that.
Date, I think you said June 25th.
I apologize. Thank you. Tuesday, June 24th, 2025.
And then, do we need a roll call?
We do.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
I'm behind myself.
Oh, where's? I didn't look over at you.
And that was Susan and Joe. Second,
Most of you know we're using a new system here, so,
Director Suda,
yes.
Director Nelson,
Yes.
Director Beaver,
Yes.
Director Asner,
Yes.
Director Sartorius.
Yes.
Vice President Cuneo,
Yes.
President Staten.
Yes. Right. The motion to to approve holding a closed meeting of the Board of Education carries. 6.02, Board Communication, the Chair. I now open the floor for any board members wishing to make comments. We have lots.
Just want to say, note that we're about to finish ESY in summer school this week, so congratulations to everybody. And also to note that I've had quite a few tears shed in my office by parents as they're contemplating the next 6 weeks of summer. And no joke, the challenges that they're going to be experiencing caring for their kids. So, all the work that everybody does here is really greatly appreciated. And then also just want to wish everybody happy 4th of July next week.
I have one item. I don't know how many of you remembered Shirley Westbury. Shirley Westbury died on, I guess it was this week. She's being laid out tomorrow if anybody wants to go. Shirley was quite a character. Shirley, Jim Westbury was on this board forever, longer than me. And Jim may have been the most humble man I met. Jim was one of the 7 people that founded UMSL. He was a past superintendent at Normandy, past president of this board. And Shirley was his wife, who probably was the most single energetic person, you're shaking your head, that I have ever known. Shirley made, without a doubt, the best hot fudge sundae. Made it. Oh, she did. She'd have everybody over for Christmas, everybody on the board. And we would all have hot fudge sundaes. She'd make them herself. And if anybody had ever been to their house at Christmas, they would start putting together Christmas and decorating their house probably sometime after the beginning part of October. There was not a spot on their wall that was not filled. It was amazing. And Shirley would do it all herself. So just to let you know, if anybody wants to go, I have it here. She's being laid out at 14960 Manchester in Baldwin. It's tomorrow from 4 to 7. Services at Friday, June 27th, same location at 10 a.m. If not, I just wanted to say how Shirley was one fantastic lady. Jim was one fantastic guy. When we talk about, if we could ever do anything posthumously, if we ever talk about having this, the Starfish Awards, these were 2 people that were true lights in our system. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I just want to say to Dr. Macklin and his team, thank you for welcoming me. I've been getting acclimated with all the information. Tom, you've been a great help, the other board members, so I just appreciate you all. And thank you for welcoming me.
Yeah, several of us, Director Nelson and Director Sartorius and I went to the Missouri School Board Association Summer Summit last week and really had an opportunity to connect with other board members and do a lot of learning. Keisha Lee, who is the Governing Council President and who is on the Ladue School Board, was voted in as President-elect of Missouri School Board Association. So she's assuming that role right away. She'll be President-elect for a year and then will be president in the year after that. We attended different sessions. I attended one on board member certification, which was dedicated to learning how board members can get basic, advanced, master, and distinguished certifications. And there's also a governance team award that this board could consider if we get a certain number of certifications and if we do activities together to grow as a board, which I think is always a good thing. Lindbergh and Webster Groves received governance team awards this year. I attended a session on superintendent evaluation. There's a new evaluation out that I think that's always worth just looking into to see what's out there. And then I went to a session called Is Your Board Learning? And we talked about the board self-evaluation again, which I think is something I'd still like our board to do. And as we know, the MSIP 6 does require us to do professional development as a board. So I think that could lead us in that direction. So thank you for the opportunity to attend the conference. It was very worthwhile.
Thank you. Any other comments? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
We don't need a roll call.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I apologize.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. SSD Board of Education.